Slinging seeds, sliding on into home, throwing heat, buddy, we're going, gone. If you gotta go down, you gotta go down, swinging, slinging seeds. It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time, slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.
Hey everybody, welcome to another week of Slinging Seeds. I'm your host, Kyle Evans, and across the table from me is my co-host, Doug Adams, and our special guest today is lifer here at the facility, Dylan Gau.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've been part of his life for a really, really long time, and
Just go ahead. Yeah, that's probably what we should do.
Yeah, always been probably my best friend throughout the process, and spent years and years in the dugout with me, and from where he was the little guy and to where he was the older guy, older than the players. He's been both, and I will tell you this 100% in my coaching career, I've never had a better moment than when he was in the dugout with me. It was special. It's something I'll never forget. When I go to the grave, it'll be what I was thinking about, because that was special.
That's amazing. I mean, the relationship, I think that most important is being able to find it in the dugout. You know what I mean? So how are we doing tonight, Dylan?
Pretty good, not too bad. It's been a fun day so far, and we got to keep going here. So it's always a
That's what
good
we
day.
love to do.
It's always a good day at the P43.
So tell me a little bit about your experience here. The one thing that's unique about you and all the other guests that we've had on is that you're a day zero guy, right? Like ground zero. Like as soon as this place was being built, like you were a part of it. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about that experience and what you've seen throughout the years, and with our growth.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, like you said, I'm a day one guy pretty much. I like to consider myself day -50 kind of, because even in the spring of 2020, after all the COVID stuff, Doug came to me or called me while I was still in college, asking like, "Hey, I want you to help me run a baseball facility." And I'm like, at the time, right after COVID, after everything shut down, this whole process of, you know, putting the turf down, building the weight room, me and my fiance Sarah sitting at Action for 12 hours a day, handing out pamphlets, selling batting gloves. Just, I know the biggest thing when we first started was like, we just want to get a year. The biggest thing was getting past a year, and here we are, year 4, year 5. The changes that we've made here, whether, from the softball area, but that was a basketball court, and then there was a golf simulator, and then the little couch and stuff that we had up there that was torn apart. The changes that we've made has been amazing. The athletes that we get to serve here every day, from starting with 1, 2, 3 instructors. Now we have, every day there's a new instructor in the building, with softball, with baseball, with Sam, with Juan. It's amazing what we're doing here. So
I want to talk a little bit about your times, because obviously you run the place behind the scenes, right? You're the guy cleaning, you're the guy doing all the extra stuff. You also worked as a lineman. You've worked with offensive linemen in here. Doing instruction with offensive line. What was that experience like when you got to become an instructor for what it is that you did?
Yeah, for people that don't know, I played football for 16 years. Went Northmont, graduated there in 19. Went to Wilmington, was a 4-year starter. Graduated in 23, and after I graduated, it was kind of like, well, what's next? I took a year off. I was working here, and Doug and Marty approached me, asked me about doing football lessons. It wasn't really at the time, there wasn't a whole lot of offensive line stuff. So I started, and for about the first 2 weeks, I didn't get a whole lot of traction. I was new, it was different. At the time it was summer, so it was a lot more baseball stuff. But I got a couple of kids. It was a little different. Me being very well experienced, I like to consider myself. So from playing to coaching was a little bit different, because there was more of I had to go and teach it, and the kids I got, there was a lot more younger kids, so it was more of just getting a lot of fundamental stuff, and I like to focus on little things, because biggest thing I learned in college was little things make big things. So you do little things right, big things will happen. You do little things wrong, big mistakes are going to happen. So
Yeah, I think that's I actually like that phrase, because I tell it to my team a lot right now. I'm within the 16U summer. Taking care of the little things is literally the most important thing. because, like you said, the big things kind of get pushed out of the way. I mean, you've been heavily involved. Obviously, Doug, mentioned that you've been in the dugout for quite a while. Tell us a little bit about that. Your experiences as the young guy and then as the older guy, and what you've done with the Canes organization.
Yeah, so for most people that don't know, I wasn't the greatest baseball player in the world. I'll be the first one to admit. When it came to bunting, I was probably the best bunter in the country, like hands down. Wasn't the greatest hitter. Doug being my dad and all, you would think I would be like this phenomenal hitter. Wasn't ever a good hitter. I hit with Zach and Casey for a while.
Think about that. So parents out there, right? Your son will drive an hour and a half from college home to hit with me, and I had to pay lessons for him to go to somebody else because he wouldn't listen to anything I said. So, hey, I feel you.
Yeah, I mean, I love baseball. I still love it to this day, but I think football was always my calling. But when it came to baseball, always loved being around Doug. The game and the way he presented everything was just way better than me sitting in a dugout playing. So, I think freshman year was when I called it quits. I kept missing summer or the winter workouts, and my mom called. One of her friends there had a kid, and he's like, "Hey, these baseball things keep getting canceled." I'm like, "Oh no, they keep going." And I was sitting at my dad's house in the basement. But yeah, no, traveling with Doug was awesome. Traveling with Doug was awesome though, because I mean, when I was younger, I was with Brian Corbett, Kent Reeser, Jared Baer, Corey Arnold, and like for me, those were like my big brothers. I spent countless weekends, countless days in there. And, me being the young guy, they were always like tiptoeing around. But then once I was there more and more, I mean, I think for a while, I think every weekend I was traveling with you guys, even in the summer, into the fall some. So, I mean, they were like my big brothers. I mean, they treated me just like one of them. I mean, granted, at the time I was only 12, maybe 13, a little bit younger. But I mean, they always treated me right. They never, messed around. Like they treated me like I was one of their friends or even like a little brother for them. So I mean, traveling the world or traveling really the East Coast with Doug, going to Georgia, going to Disney with Ben's group and Evan. I mean, for me, being in the dugouts just my way of being a part of baseball. Whether watching it when I was younger and then older, kind of being like a dugout guy. I was never like I wasn't really a coach. I mean, sometimes they ask me like little questions, but I mean, I was more of a morale guy. I mean, I still am when I come to some of Doug's games, Brian's games, Frank's games. I'm just kind of in there hanging out, talking with the guys. I mean, like especially with Ben and Evan and Theo and Naaman, like I was more of just like morale guy. Like for me, it was always being like somewhat of a role model for them or like talking to them, like even after good games, bad games, okay games. I mean, for Naaman, me and Naaman, like because when Naaman got hurt, it was kind of like in the dumps. But I mean, we just talked. We didn't talk about baseball. We talked about life. We just talked about whatever. So building those relationships. I mean, I see Evan in here every day. I see Ben in here every day. I mean, Duncan every now and then. I know he's out in like North Dakota or somewhere over there doing his summer ball thing. So I mean, it's always great to see these young men doing these things that when we first started this, it was like they were in here every day. So it's great to see the translation from them working to now where they are now, where they're all successful and being great players and even better young men.
It is very humble to watch and think about.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, I mean, I've always told everybody since you were little that you would be 10 times the coach I ever was, because you had the ability to stay calm and you're more controlled in your emotions than I'll ever be. I still ride that emotional roller coaster, something I work on every day. Um, what are some things that you learned in our dugout that have translated to your coaching position at Dayton Christian?
Yeah.
And that you try to learn, that you learned, and you're like, okay, when I became a coach, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I give a lot of credit to you guys, like you, Mark, Casey, Max, Frank, everybody in the organization. I mean, I got blessed to be in a situation where I could learn from all those guys, like between you, between Mark, between Casey, between Frank, and just everybody. It's like the biggest thing for me is player first. My time of playing is done. Whatever I do, whether I help on scout team or whatever my time is playing is done. I would give anything to play again, but I am done playing. So now my goal and my position is to give back to the kids. So everything's player first. What we do is always for the kids. Whether it is football or if it's life. Life hits you hard sometimes. So whether we're doing a drill or something, and a kid that normally goes 100% is kind of going 50, even lower. It's like we'll pull them aside or something. So I mean, for me, it's always been player first. Building that player relationship is like my biggest thing, is just because at the end of the day, it's just football. stuff's going to happen. Life's going to hit you. So, I mean, if for 2 hours a day we can go have fun and kind of escape from that, whatever's going on is kind of the biggest thing for me is building that player rapport and kind of just letting the kids have fun. So, I mean,
I think I like that piece too. Obviously you're a big football guy. Um, Tell us a little bit about like sport translation, because I mean we've had guys on here like Coach Mark Adams, huge basketball coach, right? Then now he's coaching successful baseball. Tell us a little bit about that for you to be in like a baseball environment for most of your coaching,
Mhm.
like, and now that you're in your football environment, obviously you're able to take your expertise from the football side, but like tell us a little bit about how that's translated and what it's helped you.
yeah. So, I mean, yeah, when I talk to people at like my work and stuff, everyone's like, well, you work at a baseball facility, so why aren't you a baseball coach? For me, football has always come easy to teach. With baseball, it's pitching and fielding and hitting, and there's so many little details that I'm just not good at. I've always been a football guy. That's always come easy to me. But I mean, just building that rapport with the kids is, I mean, once that kid trusts you, they're going to start learning from you more. I mean, you can sit here and preach the gospel about hitting or blocking or passing or coverages, but if the kid doesn't trust you enough to, actually do what you're saying, you're just telling them to do it and not telling them why and what's the reason and here's an example. I mean, for the great thing in football, we have film. Everything's filmed. So there's always going to be a reason why we do something. There's always going to be a reason why we're changing something. So it's easy to translate what we see versus what we do. And especially in here, like watching Juan do all this stuff and all the breakdown stuff. Like there's many times where we'll sit down with one or two position groups and be like, all right, cool, you two are on the same page, but there's one more guy that needs to get on that page. So let's kind of focus on that. So I mean, the great like just learning from you guys too. Like everybody in here is so detailed what they do. So like being able to translate what I see what you guys do is super easy for me. Like, all right, cool. Like base thing for you is what's the why? There's always a why. And like being able to translate that, all right, cool. I'm going to tell these kids what to do, but I need to tell them why we're doing it.
Right.
So just being able to see what goes on in here, and obviously the people in here are very successful at what they do. So I have a great mentoring piece between everybody in here. So
They don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
100%.
It comes up every time. So I mean, it's at some point it's got to ring true to somebody, or at least some of our viewers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess the next thing is you obviously went through your own recruiting process, and you ended up choosing Wilmington, and you had a great career, 4 year starter. Got to play in the Division III All Star game afterward, Um, so that was really cool when we went up to New York and got to see you play in
yeah.
the D3 All Star game. So that was an incredible experience, with Jimmy and your mom and everybody, and it was awesome. So then you came back and you had decided that you had a couple opportunities to play football after college, and you just decided it wasn't the right opportunity. You're ready to start your teaching career, and you wanted to start coaching football. So you went through a bunch of opportunities. You had a bunch of options, right? Tell us why you decided on Dayton Christian, and tell us about that relationship you have with Luke Hurst.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Luke is now the football coach and athletic director at Dayton Christian. He actually was a part of the Northmont staff my senior year. So, um, as a player, I didn't know him a whole lot when he came in because he was a wide receiver guy. I was an offensive line guy, so obviously I'm not out there running routes and stuff. So a lot of the interactions we had was in the weight room or just kind of in passing or even in the film room, just kind of talking because I was always the guy that showed up 30 minutes early because of this guy. So I mean, with
Your brain.
yeah, it is for real. Like even now, like I come to work now early just because I'm just, that is what it is. That's how I am. But yeah, my relationship with Luke has grown a lot in the last couple of years. I remember when I was working at Meyer, I would get texts almost like every night, like, "Hey, what are you doing? What's up?" But the biggest thing is, especially when Bass came along, it was just the right timing. Obviously, with Doug being at Dayton Christian for as long as he has, I don't even know how long it's been now. It's always been like, well, they have a football team, but maybe it's not my time yet. But when Luke was there and Bass was there and all the other coaches were there, it's like, all right, maybe it's my time to step back. I took a year off from football. Just getting out of college, wasn't sure exactly, how my first year at my teaching job was going to go, everything between me and Sarah, we were trying to find our own place to live. So, I believe like when Luke got the position, all these little pieces finally started coming together. My piece of the puzzle finally went into Dayton Christian. And I mean, now it's amazing. I mean, with everything going on, I accepted an intervention specialist job there for the next school year. So, I mean, Dayton Christian's special. I don't know what it is, but it's a little hidden gem that you drive by, people don't really think of what it is. I mean, it's just like a magnet. There's just something there that just pulls you into it every time. Even if you're first time person going, there's just something special about Dayton Christian, and it's only continuing to grow with all the new projects and stuff that's going on. And it's just I don't know, it's just like a magnet. There's just something that just keeps pulling you back. So it's just something special about that place.
You ain't lying. Dayton Christian is extremely special, and I love it. And so I do want to follow up. So obviously, I know the relationship with Coach Bass. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the cool things about Coach Bass with being played for him in high school, kind of your biggest mentor
Mhm.
in coaching and in life, right, as a coach. And then, I mean, it was so close with Coach Bass that he even came to your senior day in college, which I thought was absolutely incredible. So tell us a little bit about what Coach Bass taught you and, what he meant to your career.
Yeah, so Coach Bass, when at Northmont, obviously the freshmen are on the freshmen. At Northmont, when I was there, it was really big. I mean, it still is now. But freshmen, we practice on the grass fields behind it. Obviously, if they weren't practicing, we'd use a turf field. But so freshman year wasn't really, I saw Bass when they would work out. There wasn't a whole lot of inner meeting with a lot of the freshmen and the upperclassmen, if you will. So sophomore year, wasn't the biggest guy in the world. I was only probably about 5'8". I looked kind of like a bowling ball. If you ever get an old picture of me, wasn't the greatest looking athlete in the world. So sophomore year, there was me and two other sophomores. We were called the Three Little Pigs.
Gosh,
I kid
dude.
you not. We were called the Three Little Pigs, and when I heard that, I'm like, man, I don't know what to think. Like, am I like the weak pig? Am I the medium pig? Am I the big pig? Like, what's going on with the whole pig thing? So from sophomore year, even up until last year, the Three Little Pigs stuck with me. So I mean, one thing with Bass though, I don't know if it was just because of how much I worked and how hard. There was never like an ounce of like giving up on me. Sophomore year, when he could be coaching all the great guys that I played with at Northmont, there's always time where he always came back to me, even individual, or even after practice, he'd ask like, "Hey, how did the scout team go? How did this go? What'd you not do good?" So there's always like, even like when I was playing, like when I didn't play till my senior year, so sophomore and junior year, uh, I was always on scout team or I was doing JV stuff. I didn't really kind of hit my peak until I was in my senior year. So a lot of the sophomore and junior year, it was a lot more of a personal relationship because I wanted it so bad for myself. I wanted to play varsity. That was my one goal. That's kind of why I stopped playing football. Was like, all right, I didn't play as a freshman. Let's see if I can just put all my chips in and try and get to where I want to go. And I mean, the many times me and you talked was just getting on varsity, just working towards that. So I mean, he was kind of always in my corner. I mean, even until to this day, we talk every now and then. Just always, putting all the chips in and just talking about even football, life, just whatever. And obviously, once senior year hit, there's a lot more time we talked. I mean, it was me and three other seniors on offensive line and a junior. So there's a lot of leadership put on me and the other three guys. But me and him always talked about stuff because I just cared that much. Whether it was talking about the defensive line, whether it's talking about what we saw in practice, just a lot of talking. There's a lot of late nights, so it's very special. Even like throughout college, between him and Manjin, those were like my two guys that even to this day I still talk to every now and then. He'd always text me every other month or so, like, "Hey, how's it going? What's going on? What can you do?" Like, just there's always that open line of communication. If I ever had a question, if I ever needed anything, he was just kind of somebody always in my corner that I could go to. And then especially on senior night, it was like, wow, like this guy who, I was one of his little pigs. Now, walking senior day in college, it's like it's always nice to look back and see who's always been in your corner. It's always you see those pictures all the time. It's like, when you're successful, there's a bunch of people in the crowds cheering you on. But when you're not successful, who's always around you? Like
Right.
there's only maybe a dime a dozen people around you. It's always cool to like see, all right, cool. When I was a sophomore, wasn't this big dude or macho guy who was like playing all the time. I didn't even play JV as a sophomore, even really as a junior, and then all the way up until now, kind of being like a big mentor for me, always, being in my corner and like really helped me my first year because, first year coaching, I wasn't like I knew football, but the coaching from playing is a huge jump, especially for me. The offense we ran last year wasn't always you don't see the like a wing tee for those people who don't know, you don't see it except unless you go to a Navy game. Like so, being like a big mentor for me was always awesome having my corner and somebody that I can always rely on.
One of the things I like about that whole story is, and I've used you as an example with a lot of kids who are now going on to play college baseball, and it was like you weren't that player. I remember, if being real, your junior year, you played JV
Mm-hmm.
and you started at tackle on JV. And for me and your mom and your dad, and it was, this is it. This is the pinnacle. Like, he's never going to be a varsity player, right? But he's getting to play on Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where we went to like one Kentucky game that year because like it was everything that Saturday morning game for Dylan.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we go through that process, and you become a starter that played every second your senior year, even when you had the hand injury and you told the doctor, they said you're out a couple weeks, and you laughed at him and said, "No, I'm not," and he taped it up and played, right? And then you ended up a captain in college.
Yeah.
One of the stories I want to tell and I want to share because I know people get dejected, and I think this could help that young kid in our program. Is I remember sophomore year, he was not playing at all. And he came to me and was like, "Hey, we're gonna have a conversation about football, this and that." And I said, "Well, do you love it?" And he said, "Absolutely." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do when you grow up?" And he said, "Well, I want to be a football coach." That was always what he wanted to be. He wanted to be a football coach. And I said, and learn from my mistakes. I didn't go out my last 2 years at Miamisburg, right? And to this day, I still get brought up and thrown in my face. Well, you never played the varsity level. So I told him, I said, no matter whether you ever play a second, you have to be on the team for 4 years. So when you want to be that football coach, nobody can ever say you didn't finish it out, that you didn't play varsity, that you didn't, because you did.
Mm-hmm.
And learn from my mistakes. And he did that. And then he ended up obviously way more. Ended up a 4-year starter in college and ended up a team captain in college. And
It's huge, man.
it's just an incredible story, and played in the D3 college all-star game and all those things. He was a great player. Nothing's given me more joy than when I watched him play football. It was one of the
Doug
greatest
talks
ones.
about it when we're on the road.
Yeah. I mean that the whole process of really, I mean, high school not playing at all. I remember that sophomore year, I was really close to just calling it quits. Wasn't playing baseball. I was enjoying traveling with Doug. Every weekend, going to different towns, going to different states, doing all this. It's like, well, I mean, I'm not playing football. I haven't played JV. It's Saturday morning. I get up Saturday morning after a long varsity game, not playing a whole lot. I mean, between the talks with you and my dad, and then kind of just going back to looking back at even our family, like Danny was a 4-year starter in soccer. She was awesome. All the summer stuff she did. Mom was a starter in soccer. It was on mom's side was like always cool. You didn't play varsity. My dad didn't play varsity football, so it was like, all right, I'm gonna give it one more year. Took weight room serious, not as much as I should have. So junior year, like he said, played JV all 10 years, had a blast. Me and a couple of the guys were like, hey, we're better than varsity that year. I think that year we finished with the same record, so we always were like, hey, we won, you guys did it. Ha. Always kind of rubbed in their face because, for us, a lot of us thought like, all right, cool, this is going to be us. We're going to be playing Saturday mornings, and this is our show. So let's have fun. Let's enjoy it. Luckily, we had the coaches that made it fun. That was a lot with Manjin and Hurst and Mays. Those guys kind of like, all right, hey, this is your show. You do what you want. Obviously, once you get to varsity next year, it's our show. We get to kind of more lead you guys into that stuff. So, I mean, junior year was all fun and games. Like, not really fun and games, but like we just enjoyed every moment because for some of us, and even for some of the people in my class, they stopped playing after their junior year because they knew, all right, well, I'm not going to play. So why am I going to waste my summer, working and all that stuff? So I'm going to quit and go on. I had that option, but I kind of took the alternative route where I kind of that spring, summer, whatever you want to call it, I think I was in the weight room like every day. I think every single day that I could get a ride because I didn't drive till I was 18. So I was bugging mom, Doug, dad, Aubrey, Danny, anybody that would take me to the Y. There were some days I walked, which I hated and regretted, but that's what it took for me. I was overly patient. Until that junior year kind of hit and I kind of flipped the switch like, all right, cool, it's my show to take. Like that year we graduated all 5 offensive linemen. So it's like, all right, cool. I got a 1 in 5 chance of playing somewhere. So whether it's guard, center, or tackle, it's mine for taking. So I mean that spring, summer, I hit the 1,100-pound club in deadlift, squat, and bench, and for me that was huge. I was a 225-pound bencher in high school. When I hit it, I was ecstatic. I mean, squatting and deadlift, those are my things. So I mean, I got to 1,100 pounds, and from there it was like, all right, this kid who's done nothing now is a top 5 in the weight room. It's like, all right, there's something there. We just have to get him to that next level.
Right.
And that whole spring and summer, I mean, working with Bass and working with France and the trust that Coach Brands and Coach B had in me was just awesome. And I mean, I have those guys like give a lot of credit to because they kept with me, and a guy that could have gave up on, or they could have developed a younger junior guy or a sophomore or whatever, and the trust that they had in me and the development they had was just I give a lot of credit to them to where I was. And Wilmington was kind of self-explanatory. I mean playing only 10 games, 12 games with the playoffs, looking for college wasn't the easiest, because as a 1-year starter, it's like, well, D3 is the only option. It's like, well, I don't really know most of the D3 schools because I wasn't big in the recruiting. At the time, my senior year, I'm sitting in my computer programming class making my film tape. Just because it's a class where we're sitting on computers. All right, cool. I'm gonna make a film tape. See how it goes. And then one of the bigger people that got me to Wilmington was Nick Moore. He played for Doug. Kind of took somewhat the same route where I did. He focused on football. He was a 4-year starter at Wilmington too. I think he reached out to me. He reached out to Doug. I was like, hey, I saw Dylan had a pretty good year. What are the odds of being down to Wilmington? So that kind of opened my eye into the recruiting world. And with that, you have to be patient with, because I mean, especially when you're going to D3, everybody's trying to get playing time. Everybody's trying to go somewhere where they can find a home. I mean, for me, with all the recruiting, I think it came down to Wilmington, Otterbein, Bluffton, and Muskingum. The biggest thing, I don't know who told me this, but the biggest thing was like, where can you go without football? You have to find somewhere where you can go where you can still get a 4-year degree, because the chances that you make it, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's from D3 to pro, or even a lot of people that don't make it all 4 years at school. You have to go somewhere where D3, where I went, it's like, all right, you have to go somewhere to get a job. Like, you have to go there for 4 years, get a degree, and go into the field that you're going there, because D3, they can't give you a whole lot. They'll give you a little bit kickback here and there where they can, but I mean, a lot of it's you got to grind out. So, Wilmington, we went on 2-3 visits there, academic football visits, all the stuff. And every time it was like, all right, this is number one. This is number one. There's just something kind of like DC, we go back to Wilmington all the time. It's just like, man, like I would
pull you back.
Yeah, it's just something special. And that place was unique, and, it was a fresh start for me. So I mean, that place is special. It's where I met my fiance, going to be wife. I mean, those are people that my best man's in the wedding went to Wilmington, played football together. A lot of my teammates are coming to the wedding, so like that's a place. Wilmington's a place I'll never forget. So,
Not a lot of people would know this, but you kind of trained me here
sure.
as an employee. I got trained by Dylan, and now I'm here sitting. I like it. But no, I mean, you've kind of always been around, right? You're one of the guys that I think that, if we ever ask for like advice, or like if we ever ask that we need anything, you're always there. That being said, you got to see like a lot of the behind the scenes stuff on P413 baseball since it's been up and running for the past year now.
Sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about, with you being a guy that's on the sidelines, you get to see, just tell us a little bit about what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, this place is just special. Like, you don't see this a whole lot. Like, you see, like, not to discredit anybody, but I mean, just thinking back where they started and the old warehouse in Miamisburg. Like, that's kind of like the norm for a lot of people. And that's fine, because that place brought a lot of success to a lot of people. There's a lot of times where he would get up at 5 in the morning to drive to Miamisburg and hit with Kent, Brian, whoever wanted to hit, so that's, you got to start where you got to do what you got to do. I mean, here it's amazing because we can bring in, like, today. Today was a crazy day, a random Wednesday. A lot of teams started playing, a lot of teams wrapping up. It was insane in here. We had like maybe 6 teams in here. Everybody's doing lessons. So it's really cool just to see like the development of all these guys. Like the big thing me and my mom started talking about the other day is like a lot of the older guys now, like I remember when they were coming in when they were like 14 years old, and like I didn't really know a whole lot of them, but like it's really cool to see the lifer guys come through and to see where they're at now. I'm like, it's always cool to see, because I'm like, yeah, a lot of the younger guys like to call me the front desk guy. Oh, what's up, Mr. Front Desk guy? The thing you little stups. You know about that.
Dan Adams.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh.
Dan Adams. Yeah. A lot of front desk guy jokes. But I mean, I love it. This place is awesome to me. For me, this is just another place to be involved in a very small piece of the puzzle for some of these guys. For some people, they come in once or twice a month. Some guys that are in here every day. So for me, being that small piece of puzzle, whether it's helping them, get something on the website, because I know a lot of people don't like using our website, but I mean, once you get to use it, it's pretty simple and self-explanatory. But I mean, we're always here to help. I'm always here to help. Whether it's, setting up a TrackMan lesson for him, or even getting something for you, or Frank, or Xavier, or Sam. I mean, my biggest thing is always give back. Whatever way I can do it. Whether, it's doing a Monday night reels, Monday night views, or something, just something small. That's my way of interacting with these kids. Because, I mean, every night nowadays is all digital and social. So, like, the little interactions I have, the little conversations I have is just awesome to see. Like, everybody wants to be here.
Yeah.
And if you're not here, you need to get here. Because, like as Xavier said, this is a one-stop shop. We got everything: baseball, softball, speed and agility, pitching, lift. Like, we have it all. Like,
We need it, we got it.
Like, in the winter times, it's always funny when I get to work. Some of the kids get here, and they're here as long as I'm here.
Yeah.
But I'm just sitting at the front desk, doing whatever I got to do for the day. Like, for perfect example, like Drake. When I first got back, I would come in about 4 or 5, and here comes Drake, with his Kroger bag of all of his snacks for the day, because, he'd come in for Sam from 5 to whenever they get done lifting, and then he would hit with Frank or Doug or Xavier, whoever, and depending on the night, you would either have Team Top V, Team Hitting, so, like, it's awesome to see the commitment that these young men have, and, like, you don't see it a whole lot.
Yeah,
like,
especially the select guys that, that really pour their hearts and souls into this place. We kind of pay homage to those guys
For
too,
sure, yeah.
because without those guys, this place wouldn't mean very much.
It's a lot, and like I'm in I tip my hat to those guys, because like me in high school, I wasn't that guy until I was a senior in high school, when I was at the end of my road.
Right.
But these guys, we got 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, like they want to be in here so bad. Even like there's a couple 8-year-olds that are in here almost every day. And it's like I
My
can't.
guy Brantley hurt.
Brantley's
every day.
Brantley's my guy, dude. He loves it in here.
When you see an 8-year-old in the cage more than a high school kid, like that kid's gonna be special.
Oh yeah,
for sure,
100%.
Like that kid's awesome. There was just talking about him real quick. There was an incident where he got hit in the face with a baseball.
I remember. I was right there.
We were all like making sure the kid's okay. He went outside, recollected himself, and he had a full practice.
Yeah.
And then he went and hit with Frank. It's like, what 8-year-old is going to get hit in the face with a baseball?
Yeah, what's
Go
your
practice
excuse now?
Yeah.
What's your excuse?
Brantley's my guy.
Brantley's a different dude.
I love that
That
dude,
kid's
man.
awesome.
I love it. Yeah, but
I mean,
thanks for jumping on and doing this, buddy.
Absolutely.
Obviously, I love you to death, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome. It's about time.
Yeah.
We talk media all the time.
I know.
So I think that's a cool thing too. But no, I same as Doug. I really appreciate you doing
Thanks for having me on, guys. It's special. This place is unique, so it's always awesome to be able to talk a little bit.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have tonight. And if you guys want to see more stuff like this, make sure you follow us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And to never miss a notification on our social media accounts, we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right, boys.
It's America's favorite pastime. Come on, let's have a good time. Slinging seeds. Yeah, we're just slinging seeds.